Hi, this is Chris Abel from What She Said with another extended interview here on SiriusXM Satellite Radio. My guest this week has spent the last 7 months writing and producing a fantastic new television series called Great Lakes Wild, which will be debuting later this month on Oasis HD. Amanda Buckiewicz?
Yes, Buckiewicz.
Buckiewicz. Congratulations. Nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine. You know, when you first tweeted that you were doing this project, I got really excited because I've heard experts talk about the Great Lakes around the world with this sense of awe. It really is one of the great freshwater wonders of the world, and yet those of us who live around it, we've kind of lost our appreciation. And I thought there should be a series that can kind of tell us all the things we don't know about our own backyard, that can kind of get us to feel the way that others around the world do. That's what you've done. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was actually one of the drawing points for this project because I've always been fascinated by nature TV and nature series and watching Planet Earth and David Attenborough and all that. But that, you always think nature happens in Madagascar. It happens in Upper Mongolia. You don't think about it happening in your own backyard, especially when you're living in a great city like Toronto. And it was really awesome to actually be able to learn a lot about the animals and the wildlife that are living around us in these Great Lakes that are actually really impressive once you take a long look at them.
And one of the things I thought was interesting in watching the first 3 episodes that you sent me was that every episode has its own focus, its own theme, whereas other series, they find a formula and they repeat it from week to week. You haven't done that. You've gone out and presented a different adventure every week, and I thought that's really cool. So can you tell me a little bit about the different sort of themes and stories that you've been focusing on?
Absolutely. So the stories and the themes ended up coming up together kind of organically. I was sitting in the car with my cameraman, Mike Brown, as we're driving towards the Massasauga rattlesnake shoot. And I was like, it's too bad that people don't like Massasauga rattlesnakes. It's kind of like the cormorants. Why don't I lump them together in an episode about animals that people don't like but need saving anyways? So it's awesome to go in with a plan, but the plan always changes. And I lucked out that we ended up coming up with good themes and solid themes and finding out that the stories that were out there were varied and different. And yeah, ultimately though, they all ended up coming down to there are animals out there and they need our help. They need our attention and they need us to stop acting like we own the planet and that it's here for just us only. That's ultimately the theme that runs through the whole series.
Well, and, that's what a good adventure is. You should be able to follow your curiosity. So I'm going to play a clip here from your series, and this is from an episode where you talk about invasive species with Asian carp. Have a listen.
Electro-fishing is a great tool for shallow water areas. As you get deeper, the electricity dissipates the further away you get from the boat. All right, you guys ready to start this? All fingers crossed and toes that we see no Asian carp of any kind.
Nice size fish, another largemouth. Oh, got nice rock bass here. Here's a banded killifish, the state endangered species.
All right, so we heard them mention something here about electro-fishing, which I have to tell you is as crazy as that sounds. So can you please explain what is electro-fishing?
Absolutely. So this is a tool that is illegal for fishermen to use, so don't get too excited out there if you're an angler. It is what it sounds like. You drop an electrical current into the water and turn on the power, and then all of the fish within, I think it was a 15-meter radius, float to the top. And they're not injured in any way. They said it was more gentle than a human being tasered, but they're stunned. And so that way, if you're looking for a certain fish, like the Asian carp, you're able to see, look around and see, okay, no, that's a largemouth bass, that's that, and see what fish are actually around you. And it's really, really helpful for these researchers.
Yeah, I thought the way that you approached it, because invasive species is one of those issues we see in the news all the time. And after a while, people start to turn that issue off. And your approach was very different in that you were taking a look at some of the technical solutions that people are coming up with. And I don't mean to make it sound bad, but I mean it looked like stuff that comes out of a hackathon. You've got people who are building things that look like it was made in a garage, but a high level of ingenuity. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about finding those contraptions and then shooting them. I think you did a great job of sort of telling the process of how these things work.
Oh, thank you. I mean, a lot of it was just the luck of the draw. Asian carp was actually something that I wanted to do the second I heard that I was doing the series. They were the first animal that jumped to my mind, and I said, I got to tell this story. And yeah, I mean, it's not a matter of using technology really to kill them all. You can't do that. There's so many Asian carp out there in the rivers, and they're going up and they're approaching the Great Lakes. And it's just a matter of, right now, trying to build barriers. And they've got this electrical barrier in Illinois, just across the Illinois River, to keep Asian carp out, and it pulses electricity through there, and it seems to be working. There was one fish that they found north of the barrier, almost at the lakes, a couple years ago, and that created a huge kerfuffle when they realized that they'd found this fish north of the barrier that they thought was impermeable, but they haven't found anything since then, so they don't know if it was a person who brought it in or anything like that. Sea lampreys was another animal that I looked at in the invasive species episode, and that one, again, was just, I lucked out. I called the right guy who said, oh my God, have you seen sea lampreys? And I hadn't, and he said, Google it right now with me on the phone. Just look at this thing. It is crazy. It looks like something out of a horror movie, and it just looks like something that you don't want around you. And they have a whole arsenal of methods to get rid of it and try and keep sea lampreys from doing massive amounts of damage to the lakes. So they're using things that, I mean, I didn't even believe it when I first heard this. They're grinding up sea lampreys to create a liquid made of dead sea lampreys and pouring that into the water, and that has proven to completely repel sea lampreys. And then they're also using pheromones, sea lamprey pheromones, to attract them to the traps, stuff like that. And it's mind-boggling what they're doing out there.
They really are sort of like the nightmares that wake you up at 3 in the morning. I made the mistake of tweeting a picture of one a long time ago, and Kim Parley at BNN News, I don't think has ever forgiven me for it, because it's just, yeah, it is astonishing. But you capture them in a way I haven't seen before, because you actually get underwater. I mean, it's one thing to look at this many teeth thing in a photo. It's another thing to actually see how they become parasitical and latch on to fish below the water, and you capture that. It's amazing. I also thought it was cool. Much of your series, you have scientists, you have researchers doing what they do. A lot of the techniques are going to be, I think, entertaining for people. The way that you have some the female scientists running around grabbing snakes out of the ground is very entertaining. But you also have some of the local colors, some of the people around. There's a Captain Kilpala. I loved him. You got him on camera, and he manages to Wikipedia in terms of talking about his area. And even though he's a guy who's been driving this boat up near Thunder Bay for more than 40 years, there's not a hint of any cynicism or loss of passion about the area that he lives in.
No, and it's funny, the night before we were scheduled to get on this boat to go to Isle Royale in the middle of Lake Superior, we had been driving for about 9 hours, and we get to this town of Copper Harbor, Michigan, and we're starving. So we go to the only place that's open, the local bar, and we sit down at this table and we go, what'll you have? Oh, well, we'll have a pasty, which is a local meat pie in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which you should try if ever you're up there. It's delicious. And we just hear this guy at the bar just yammering, telling stories. Oh, man, he's got the loudest voice, and we're just watching him with awe, just saying, of course, we're in small-town Michigan. This guy, this is awesome. And then he gets up to go leave, and they say, bye, Don, you driving the boat tomorrow? And he goes, yeah. And I realize he's the captain of our boat. And he's at the local bar until about 11:30 at night. So we were like, well, yeah, of course. He was a great bit of character. I'm really, really glad that he spoke with us on that ride, because it was really awesome.
That was a good find. It really, really was. And so, again, the big advantage of watching a series like this is the exposure to see all the wildlife that we sense. We know that they're out there. We just never get to see them in our daily lives. So talk about a little bit about the breadth, the diversity of different animals that people are going to be able to see in this series.
Sure. So we tried to go for the animals that you wouldn't expect on one hand, like the Massasauga rattlesnake. It's Ontario's only venomous snake. Most people don't even realize that we have rattlesnakes in Ontario, and that's part of their story. People don't realize it. When they find out, they want to kill them. They want to crush them. They want to chop their head off with a shovel, whatever. And they're a part of the landscape. They're necessary. They were here before we were here, and you know, the story that we talk about with them is just getting to appreciate them, and they'll leave you alone. We were walking around, stomping through the woods, and you know, 2 feet away from us, you just hear shh, and you're like, oh, there is a snake there. Okay, let me move aside. We also looked at some big guys like elk. There's a really impressive elk population up near Burwash, Ontario, which is actually just south of Sudbury. It's a ghost town. And about 20 years ago, they decided, well, elk used to be here, but they're not here now because of human interaction. Let's bring them back. And so they brought back this population of elk into this ghost town. And, you know, we got to go up there and stomp through the woods with this researcher, David Buckiewicz, and just see them thrive. And it was really crazy just to go. And we went during their mating season because, of course, that provides the best pictures. And just hearing them holler out, they do this thing called bugling, where I can't even recreate it. I'm not going to try, but it is an incredible sound and just hollering at us from across a field, and it was just mind-blowing. So we have those guys, we have moose, we have wolves, we have cormorants, we have so many animals. You just got to check it out.
Now, you mentioned moose, and so I want to play this fantastic recording that you have. It is of a moose, but it's a sound that you've probably never heard a moose ever make before. So here, have a listen. That's just amazing. Tell me a little bit about this.
So this was video captured via remote camera. This was not something that I heard 3 feet away from me. I would have been terrified. But we're with our moose researcher, Rolf Peterson, and we're on the island of Isle Royale. And yeah, he captured this sound. He's heard rumors that moose growl, but who's been studying moose for 60 years, had never heard that noise. And so for him, this was a really prized clip to get. You know, just coming from behind his wildlife camera that he's got set up just to, you know, you hope that you're going to catch something like this, but you never actually expect to.
And it's a moose that's sort of trying to intimidate a pack of wolves. And I love how your researcher, Rolf, introduces the footage and saying, well, the footage is not really that worth looking at. Listen to this. I kind of disagree with him because he's got this image, and you see the tall grasses, and you see the eye shines of all the wolves surrounded, and realize that you're looking through the eyes of the moose. It's frightening. It's very scary. So that must have been a tremendous find for you.
Absolutely. And one of the cool things, too, is that when you look at the footage, one of the wolves has only one eye. So you see, you know, a set of eyes here and a set of eyes here, and then you just see this one lone dot shining back at you. And when Rolf told me about this, I just, you know, it was one of those moments as a television producer where you just sort of fist pump a lot in the air and just go, yeah! So it was great.
Yeah, I've got shivers. So we're going to finish it there. Thank you very much for your time, and certainly I hope that you have great success over at Oasis. If you're looking for it, the show is called Great Lakes Wild. You can visit oasishd.ca to find the schedule, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.